previous video, I described a DIY stuff sack that I made for my homemade hammock. Well, inspired by that project, I decided to make another stuff sack, but made this one quite a bit bigger so I could use it for carrying around day-to-day items. I added a couple of exterior pockets and a shoulder strap so I can carry it over my shoulder. I decided not to do a backpack style with two straps because carrying around day-to-day, most of the time you're just going to sling it over on one shoulder anyway. It's got a buckle so you can adjust the length of the strap in case you want to carry it messenger bag style for a little bit more stability. Now I'll show you a little bit about how I made the bag. So here are all the components for this project. I'm using this ripstop nylon. I've got 4 pieces to make up the body. I've got 1 square piece to make up the bottom. A piece of no-seam mesh for the mesh pocket on the exterior. This is just some scrap material that I had left in case I need a little piece to make something, for an attachment or something. Some 3/4 inch grosgrain ribbon. I'm using this Zing-It line, but it's way overkill for a drawstring. I'm just using it because it's what I have on hand, and I have a whole lot of it and nothing else to do with it. You can use any kind of string. Paracord would be good. A cord lock. And then I've got the strap from some bag that I've already butchered for other projects, and I'm going to use for the strap for this. So that's all the parts. The first thing I'm going to do is pin them together. Okay, so I've pinned the bottom and all 4 sides together, and then I'm going to work up each of the sides. Folding the grosgrain ribbon, which is this, I'm folding that in half and sandwiching it in between the layers of the nylon. And what I'm going to end up with is a seam that, when it's finished and turned right side out, will look like this. I highly encourage you to do some test runs on some of the actual fabric that you're going to be sewing, so you can see how things are going to turn out. I did this one and used a serge stitch to reduce fraying, and playing around with the sandwiching the grosgrain in here, and pretty happy with the way it looks so far, so I'm going to go ahead and go for it on the full-size item. Alright, I'm going to get started actually sewing this together. As I've said a few times, I really don't know what I'm doing, and that shouldn't stop you from trying things, I think. So I'm just going to start sewing, and I'm probably not going to do this the way someone who knows what they're doing would do, but it's probably going to be fine when I get done. If not, I'll have to start over again. So I'm starting off just using the wheel on the side of the sewing machine to manually put in a few stitches. I've found with this machine and this material and my experience level, getting it started by hand seems to lead to fewer difficulties with having the stitches get tangled up on the bottom. Oddly, these pins are rather sharp. Somehow I managed to pin this last side backwards or something. I'm not surprised by this because I don't know what I'm doing exactly. So this is going to be a little clumsy to pull the pins out of, but that's the way it goes. So. Got the bag turned right side out. You can see the seam is turning out, I think, very nicely. And now I've just rolled a hem into the top of the bag. I'm going to sew that hem, and then I'll put in the reinforcement for where the draw cord will go through. Put the draw cord around the bag, roll this over the draw cord, and then sew that. Right now I'm just going to sew the hem. It's really important when you do this that you don't let the other side of the bag get underneath where the needle goes, or you will sew your bag closed. Ask me how I know. Alright, I've sewn a band of elastic onto the top of my no-seam mesh, and then I've done grosgrain just folded over around the rest of the perimeter, and that's all pinned up. I'm going to sew that all together, and that's going to make one of my pockets. So I got all excited putting the pockets on, and I completely forgot to turn a camera on to capture any of the details. I'll just tell you really quickly. Basically, I sewed grosgrain around the perimeter of the pockets, and then just sewed that grosgrain to this grosgrain that is in the seam. I had to do a lot of hand stitching as a result of doing it that way. It probably would have been easier just to sew it to the body of the bag, and then I probably could have done it all with the machine. But so there you go. So I just want to talk about a few of the details of the finished bag. For the shoulder strap, the bottom attachment is actually integrated into the seam. Just put it in there when I pinned it all together and sewed it as part of the seam. I intended to do that on the top attachment, but I forgot. So the top I just sewed onto the grosgrain in the seam. I did a kind of a zigzag stitch. Pretty sure that'll be strong enough. I may have to readdress it if it gives me any problems, but I should have been paying more attention when I did it. For the draw cord, I originally intended to use the Zingit line. I realized I have plenty of black 550 paracord, and it just seemed like it would be better in this application than the Zingit, so I went with that. One thing I did differently this time, first time for me to do this, is instead of just burning a hole in the nylon reinforcement where the draw cord comes out of the bag, I actually installed a grommet. If you don't have a grommet setting kit, you can just burn a hole, and grommet setting kit's not a terribly expensive thing to have. It's kind of handy, so might be something you want to look into. And then the pockets that I use just to hold a bicycle water bottle or whatever miscellaneous stuff I might need to carry. If you have any questions about the construction of this bag or any other questions, feel free to post a comment on YouTube, and I'll try to answer your questions. Thanks.